Imagine a room filled with a familiar sound, the sharp clatter of plastic tiles, tea pouring into glasses, and an atmosphere of intense concentration. Most people look at a mahjong parlour and see a place where money simply shifts from the hands of the loser to the winner. A bustling, somewhat mysterious environment where the owner's profits seem to depend on how high the stakes are. But here is the real question. If players have winning streaks and losing streaks, does the parlour owner face that same risk? The short answer is no. In fact, the most successful mahjong parlour owners couldn't care less who wins at the table. They don't gamble on the cards, they place their bets on time. The economics of a mahjong parlour isn't about games of chance. It is a micro-real estate monetization machine that sells convenience and optimizes every single minute of room usage. How does a room of just a few dozen square meters generate steady cash flow regardless of economic swings? What is the hidden financial engine behind automated tables? And why are customers so willing to pay continuously for hours on end? Let's break down the economics of owning a mahjong parlour. To understand the financial barriers of this business, we first need to categorize the two most common operational models today: traditional open-play parlours and modern automated private studios. Regardless of the format, initial capital expenditure boils down to three core pillars: real estate, hardware, and acoustic infrastructure. Mahjong parlours are destination businesses. Customers rarely walk in on a whim. They plan their sessions ahead of time. Because of this, smart owners rarely rent expensive ground floor retail space. Instead, they choose second or third floors, or upper levels in commercial buildings. This drastically cuts fixed monthly rent while keeping the space accessible. The heart of a modern parlour, however, is not the hand-shuffled tiles, but the automated mahjong table. High-quality automated tables feature magnetic tile shuffling systems, electronic dice, and mechanical lifts. For an establishment running 8 to 10 private rooms, equipment alone represents a major upfront commitment. Then comes the hidden cost that most newcomers drastically underestimate: soundproofing and climate control. The clatter of traditional tiles can easily reach 80 to 90 decibels, similar to a small construction site. Without professional soundproofing, such as acoustic insulation, double-layered drywall, and soundproof doors, the parlour will immediately face noise complaints from neighbours. Furthermore, because players remain seated in enclosed spaces for 4 to 8 hours straight, high-capacity ventilation and air conditioning must run continuously, adding another layer of operational cost. In short, the barrier to entry isn't technological complexity. It's the upfront capital needed for hardware infrastructure and solving the physical constraints of the space. So, once the doors open and the tables light up, how does this machine actually generate revenue? If you ask an outsider how a mahjong parlour makes money, they'll tell you, from the player's cash. But from a financial perspective, the true answer is that mahjong parlours sell time and optimize velocity. In private room models, the mechanism is straightforward. Parlours charge an hourly rate per room. Whether you play fast or slow, whether you're a novice or a pro, the clock keeps ticking. What makes this unique is group occupancy. Unlike a coffee shop, where a single customer might occupy a table for 3 hours with a $5 coffee, a mahjong parlour rents space to a dedicated group of 4. Splitting the hourly rate 4 ways makes the price feel remarkably low to each customer, yet it yields a far higher revenue per square metre for the owner. In markets where open play clubs operate legally under specific licenses, parlours charge a flat fee per game played, often known as a table rake or service fee. Here, a vital financial metric comes into play: table velocity. Shuffling a set of mahjong tiles by hand takes roughly 2 to 3 minutes. An automated table cuts that down to 15 to 20 seconds. By introducing automated tables, operators boost the number of games played per hour by 30 to 50%. As games per hour increase, the total service fees collected from every single table rise proportionally. The automated table isn't just a convenience for players, it's an accelerator for parlour revenue. On top of that, there is high-margin food and beverage revenue. Mahjong players rarely leave the table during a session. This creates a captive mini-market for snacks, energy drinks, and quick meals. F&B margins in a parlour are typically higher than in standard eateries because players value uninterrupted play and are willing to pay a premium for convenience. It's worth noting that legitimate mahjong parlours eliminate any direct wagering against the house. The parlour strictly provides the space, equipment, and service. Separating service fees from game outcomes is the mandatory boundary for operating legally. So, what keeps customers coming back and sitting at these tables for hours? Behavioral economics clearly explains why mahjong parlours boast such staggering retention rates and extended dwell times. First, there is the flow state and friction reduction. Mahjong is a game that blends strategy, memory, and tactile interaction. The combination of mental calculation and physical tile movements induces a state of light focus. Automated tables remove all physical friction, like sorting and shuffling, allowing players to glide seamlessly from one round to the next without pausing to realize how much time has passed. Second is social commitment. Unlike single-player video games or watching a movie, traditional mahjong strictly requires 4 players. This creates a self-enforcing group dynamic. If one person leaves early, the session ends for the remaining 3. Peer pressure naturally keeps individuals at the table far longer than they originally intended. Group bookings rarely end after just 1 hour. They routinely stretch into 4 to 6 hour marathons. Finally, there is the illusion of control and sunk cost. Because mahjong relies heavily on skill, losing players often believe their luck will turn with the next hand. As the hours tick by and room fees accumulate, the psychological desire to validate the time already spent drives players to extend their sessions even further. The parlour owner doesn't need manipulative gimmicks. The core mechanics of the game, paired with a seamless automated environment, naturally create a self-sustaining loop. Yet, if this model sounds so resilient, why do some parlours still fail? Consider the case of aggressive automation chain expansions. Imagine an entrepreneur launching a chain of 5 high-end automated mahjong studios. Capitalizing on demand from younger demographics, they secure prime properties, install luxury interiors, and fit every room with top-tier imported tables. Within 18 months, 3 of the 5 locations are forced to shut down. The cause wasn't a lack of customers, but structural economic flaws. The first flaw is variable maintenance and energy costs. Automated tables contain hundreds of mechanical parts, magnetic sensors, and gears. Operating 12 to 16 hours a day dramatically increases component wear and sensor failures. Without an in-house repair technician, reliance on third-party servicing creates dead table time. A broken table means a room generating 0 revenue, while fixed rent continues to accumulate. The second flaw is the mismatch between peak and off-peak hours. Parlour revenues are heavily time-bound. Peak hours, evenings and weekends, often hit 100% occupancy, but off-peak morning hours might drop below 15%. If an operator projects break-even based on an assumed 50% average occupancy all day, they fall into a financial trap. Fixed costs will quickly swallow the profit made during those 6 prime evening hours. The third flaw is regulatory compliance risk. Parlours operate in a sensitive regulatory space. Neglecting noise complaints, failing to enforce age limits, or allowing unauthorized activities on site can lead to immediate license revocation. Once a license is pulled, all capital spent on soundproofing and fit-outs, pure sunk costs, is lost instantly. To summarize the business model, let's look at the high-level economics. Total revenue equals room rental hours multiplied by hourly rates, plus food and beverage sales and ancillary service fees. Net profit equals total revenue minus rent, equipment depreciation, energy and maintenance costs, and payroll. In an optimistic scenario on paper, operators assume a 50 to 60% overall occupancy rate, minimal maintenance costs, and net margins reaching 35 to 40%, hitting break-even in under a year. In real-world operations, overall occupancy often hovers between 25 and 35% due to daytime lulls. Maintenance eats up 5 to 8% of monthly revenue, leaving real net margins around 15 to 22%. with a break-even timeline of 2 to 3 years. The difference between a parlour that survives and one that closes lies in optimizing off-peak hours and maintaining strict control over fixed overhead. From the outside, running a Mahjong parlour looks simple. Buy some tables, rent a space, and collect money from people playing a game. But its financial core is a masterclass in spatial economics. Successful owners don't profit from the outcome of the cards. They profit by providing the infrastructure that converts people's leisure time into consistent cash flow. They act as utility providers, eliminating mechanical friction so players stay as long as possible. In business, as in life, the most sustainable winner isn't always the player with the best hand at the table. It's the person who owns the room and controls the clock.